Good evening, this is BelGeode and we are back with some more X-Plane 11 in virtual reality. Howdy folks, and we are back here in X-Plane 11, and tonight we're going to be showing off a number of brand new things. First and foremost, I am in the beta version of X-Plane 11.30, the long anticipated beta version that you've heard me talking about since about June when I went to Flight Sim Expo in Las Vegas. It's finally here. This is the first iteration of it, and so far my X-Plane install has been faring well. Although I will advise you, if you are planning on trying out the beta, do what I did. Make a copy of your X-Plane folder and use that copy to opt into the beta. Don't touch your original X-Plane. Leave it exactly as it is, because beta is beta and does have a nasty habit of breaking things. You've been warned. Okay, so what are we doing tonight? Well, I'm sure you can see our chariot for the evening. This is the brand spanking new Hot Start TBM 900. This aircraft, in my opinion, sets the bar for what aircraft models should be like in X-Plane 11. This thing is jam-packed full of all kinds of neat features that honestly I think every single aircraft developer out there needs to be paying very close attention to what Hot Start has done with this thing. So this is what we're going to be using to fly around tonight, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in a moment. But first, let me tell you where we are going to be flying around. You may notice that there is an airport behind me. This is actually a default Laminar Research Airport for EGHI, otherwise known as Culdrose Air Base, which is a Royal Air Force Air Base somewhere in the southwestern corner of England, I believe in Cornwall area. We are in England, that is correct. This is probably my first time on this entire series that I'm going to be flying around in the United Kingdom. And part of the reason why we're doing that is because we're going to be showing off Orbx. Yep, Orbx has announced and released their first major regional area for X-Plane. This is huge, folks, and I don't just mean that literally. So what we're going to be looking at tonight is a small portion of Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain South, which is one of 3 packages that promises to give us literally all of the United Kingdom as orthophoto and you know, custom autogen and so on and so forth. It's pretty much a self-contained thing, as only Orbx could pull off. I gotta warn you, this thing is massive. Even though the portion that we're going to be flying around in is relatively small, this package itself for Great Britain South is roughly about 26, 27 gigs. But when it's been expanded and converted to a format that X-Plane can use, this thing clocks in at almost 130 gigs. You want to know why it took me so long to get this series, this episode done? That's why. I had a lot of problems trying to install this thing, and actually I ended up having to buy a brand new SSD in order to fit this and all of my other X-Plane stuff on it. It's crazy. Is it worth it? We will definitely be finding out. More than likely, I will do multiple parts of like a mini Orbx tour as we jaunt around the southern portion of England and Wales. Tonight, we're going to be flying from Culdrose here, and we're going to be going east towards London, but we're not going to be landing in London. We're actually going to be landing in Southampton, which is another brand new airport that Orbx has brought to X-Plane. As a matter of fact, it just came out this weekend. So yeah, we've got lots of good stuff planned. All right, but before we get started on all of that, let me get back to this TBM 900. Now, I'm sure you've probably seen this thing all over the place, because everybody who's got a YouTube channel and who does anything related to X-Plane has probably already shown this off. So I'm not going to go into too many of the details, but I am going to go into some of my favorite portions. For example, what I'm about to pull up here is the maintenance hangar that this thing comes with. Now, if you're used to like A2A simulations in P3D and FSX, you've probably seen maintenance hangars before. However, this one does something a little bit different from that. Not only does it allow you to, swap out parts and so on and so forth, you can see little pieces of the engine here, but it also tracks how much each part costs when you replace it, and it keeps like a running tally. You'll notice in the upper left corner there's a slightly grayish box that says that I've spent about $350,440 on this aircraft. Yeah, I had a little bit of an issue and pretty much burnt up my turbine, so I had to replace the turbines. When you click on this, it will also give you a log of everything that you spent money on. So it's really cool if you ever wondered just, how much does it take to actually maintain an aircraft like this. And bear in mind, real life prices, this aircraft is about $4 million. So spending $350,000 on turbines, that's, not exactly a drop in a bucket, shall we say. But I haven't had too many problems with it, so if you look at all the various components of the aircraft, you'll see pretty much everything is in the green. I've tried to baby this thing as much as I possibly can. So a lot of the shenanigans that I would do with some of the other aircraft, I have not done with this aircraft, because now I've got, my own responsibilities here. I want to make sure that I keep my repair bill low. So yeah, I've actually been behaving myself. But yeah, as you can see, we've got all the components of the aircraft. You can replace everything. Parts can break on their own as you, go over time, basically having this aircraft. So in a lot of ways, it is very much like A2A Sims, except I think that Hot Start has actually done it better, considering this is X-Plane. And of course we have Rep, which also does the same thing, but only for certain aircraft. If this is what Hot Start is going to be introducing for every single one of the aircraft that they make, I'm looking forward to every single one that they are going to be putting out. All right, but that is the maintenance panel, so we'll go ahead and close that. The other thing I want to show you really quick here is going to be our payload panel. There's lots of neat stuff that you can do here. Of course, you've got your takeoff and your landing weight and your zero fuel weight. You can calculate how much gas you're planning on using. Right now, if I open up the gas tanks here, I've got 100 US gallons in that side and 100 gallons in the other side for a grand total of 200. For our trip today, we should have a landing fuel weight of roughly around 140 or 145. So I'm actually changing that at the bottom right there. All right, we got to remember to close the tanks, otherwise the gas cap will sit on top of the wing and it will cause leaks. You'll notice other little things here like our little tags and remove before flights. They're all in there. I'm going to show you something extra special with that. But before we get to that, let me show you the payload really quick. So there's me, your pilot, 190 pounds, roughly. I probably gained a couple of pounds in the last few months. I'm not surprised if I do. We can add extra passengers in there. Tonight, it's just going to be me flying because I just want to get there and, get the show on the road. But we are going to need to balance out a little bit of cargo. So let me put about 60 pounds of cargo in the back. And I'll put about 40 pounds of cargo in front here. There we go. Okay, so we've got 40 pounds in the front and 60 pounds in the back, so that's an extra 100 pounds plus me. And it looks like our takeoff, landing, and zero fuel weights are definitely within reason. So we are good to go there. We'll close that out. One interesting thing before I close it out, however, on the right side, you'll notice it says empty, randomize, 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 randomize full. You can click on those and it will actually place people in the cockpit for you. You can't see them on the inside, but you can see them from the outside, and it'll balance everything out automatically so that the aircraft stays within the correct parameters. Really neat stuff. All right, but let's go ahead and close this out. And while I am at it, I'm also going to close the front cargo compartment, so you'll see that is closing currently. There it is green, which means it is closed. Now, as far as the doors and the tie downs and everything, I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to show you something extra special that Hot Start didn't have to do, but they did, and it is incredible. For this section of the video, I'm actually going to be in the Oculus Rift, and I'm standing up in front of my desk right now. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the really cool thing that has been incorporated into this aircraft in one of the more recent updates to it, and believe me folks, they've been updating this thing practically every day. What they did was they made it so you can actually do a fully immersive walk around. Now, of course, this being X-Plane and not P3D, we don't have an avatar mode, so I can't, like, you know, just move my joystick around and have my little person move around. I've got to use this thing right here. So here's how we do it. We're gonna move a little bit closer to the aircraft here. You can see the little dude inside. Looks nothing like me, but that's okay. We'll let him slide this time. However, if I turn this way, what I can do is I can use a little green laser and look for the click spots and take off all of these covers and tie downs and everything. But the front one, it's a little bit squirrely, so I'm waiting for them to actually give me another update that'll fine-tune some of the placement of these things. In the meantime, let's see if we can snag it there. Okay, there we go. We got that. So now we can actually walk around the aircraft. And the really cool thing in VR, of course, is that everything is to scale. So when I'm standing in front of this thing, this is pretty much the size it would be in real life. Just a reminder, I am exactly 6 feet tall. You can see how tall this thing is, right? This is nuts. All right, let's go this way. We're going to go around the aircraft here. You can see we've got the chocks on the wheels. I'll be taking those off, but I'm going to go over to the wingtip here. All right, right about here should do the trick. We can remove before flight. There we go. And let's see if I can get this pedo cover. There's that one. All right. We've also got something on the back here we need to get rid of. So we'll take care of that. And let's look at this impressive tail back here. Wow. Look at this thing. That is just awesome. This, if nothing else, is the major reason to get VR, to be able to do stuff like this. Stand outside your aircraft and just check it out. And you can see all the various details, like the reflections and everything that they've got on this little tail light here. It's just awesome, folks. It's just absolutely awesome. All right, so we got another remove before flight here, so we'll get rid of that. And I'm stopping here in particular to show you another neat little feature that they've incorporated. By default, I usually go with the registration number November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. Kind of makes sense because 70, that's the year I was born. Alpha Golf Bravo, well, AGB are my initials. So all of my aircraft, with certain notable exceptions, will generally have the registration number 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. You can change this. You can even change the font. You can change the placement. Do you want it to be on the tail as it is here in this color, or do you want it to be on the fuselage? You can do all of that. As a matter of fact, you can set up multiple airframes for use inside of X-Plane, and it will track the health of every single one of the airframes that you've got. All right, we still got a few things we need to take off here, so let me go over this side and we'll tag you. Did I get the pedo cover on that? I don't think I did. Nope, still there. All right, let me see if I can reach this one. There we go. Okay, pedo covers are off. Very nice. And while I'm back here, let me close this door here. Actually, let's take a quick peek inside. While we're flying, I'll go to the back of the cabin and actually show you what that feels like or what that looks like. But you can see this is definitely some high-class, top-notch stuff. About the only thing that's missing is music, like we have in the Challenger. If they added that, that would be just totally over the top. I don't know if the real thing has it, but let's close the door. So we're going to hold this down, and this is the only thing that's different from anything else that you're doing in the outside of the aircraft here. You got to hold down the trigger to close this, and then you click on the handle, and there we go. Our cabin is totally closed. All right, we are almost ready to hop into the aircraft and get this party started. Last thing that I want to do here is, of course, get the chocks off. So there we go. Okay, folks, let's hop inside. I'll show you what the office is like, and then we'll begin our flight to Southampton. So, dude, you're gonna need to move, son. Alright, so we are in, and dude automatically disappears, which is good because that would be really freaky if I would sit here and he would be right there. Okay, let's close our door. Don't need to hold this one, you just need to click it. But you need to make sure you lock it, otherwise you will get an error. Okay, so this is what the interior of our lovely TBM 900 looks like. You can see that they even have the registration number here. This is another thing that you can customize. You can also change the font for that as well. And of course, we've got a totally glass cockpit, which is awesome. As much as I love the old steam gauges, I gotta say, I really, really love the G1000 type cockpits. And Hot Start did it right. They used the X-Plane G1000 as a basis, but then they completely expanded on it to customize it for this aircraft. So there will never be another aircraft out there that has the same exact type of G1000. Unless, of course, they make like another variant of it, which probably would have it in real life. Okay. But let's go ahead and get everything started. I don't think I will need a GPU. I think my batteries are still good, so we're going to need to bring this battery bus bar up. Okay, there we go. We'll wait for our standby instruments to start up first, which will indicate to us that we do have electrical charge. And there you can see our PFD is starting to initialize. This thing also comes with a checklist included that will appear on the big monitor in the center there. So we're probably going to be using that for portions of this whole startup procedure. Now that I've got that coming up, I'm also going to turn on our battery. So we'll switch that up. And it looks like I left the panel lights on. And that's important to note, by the way, folks. Whatever condition you leave this aircraft in, it will remember that. So I left the panel lights on, and as you can see, our panel lights are on. Okay, I'm expecting some noise from the master warning and master caution in a second. That's kind of like its self-test thing, so we'll turn that off in a moment as soon as everything comes up. Alright, it's doing its little alignment thing, and we need to hit this button on the far right. So that'll bring up our main page. Okay, there we go. I think my flight plan is still in there, so I'll check that in a moment. But first, let me go ahead and turn off our audio warning.
Okay.
All right, I like it. Betty's got a new voice. That is awesome. That is really cool. Okay, it's still doing its alignment thing, so we'll let it do that. In the meantime, I am going to turn on our nav lights. We'll turn on the strobe in a moment once we get the engine started. Let me just make sure these other switches are where they should be. Yes, looks like everything is off. Now, I did discover something a little bit odd about this aircraft. Even though it has the capability of saving the states, you can run into problems with that if you happen to, say, crash in mid-flight. Even though it saves the states, it's not perfect. I actually had that happen once. I told it that I wanted to continue flying, and when I got back into the cockpit, My fuel pump was on full, my throttle was on, but my engine was not on. Needless to say, when I tried to restart the engine, I ended up burning the thing up. Now you know why I ended up spending $350 fake $1,000 on a turbine. Yeah. Okay. But with that having been said, I think everything is pretty much good to go here. Let me pull up our checklist. Alright, there we go. Okay, manual override control is backward, which is fine. Throttle is currently in cutoff. I'm going to talk about the throttle in a moment because a lot of you have been mentioning the throttle in your posts on Facebook and so on and so forth. So I will address that momentarily. Next thing we want is strobes. Okay, so we get our strobes on. Alright, we'll check that off. Basically, I'm just hitting the enter button on this little keypad down here. Auxiliary BP fuel switch needs to be set to the on position. That'll get our fuel pump on, so that's this here. And you should hear the fuel pump come on. There's our little warning that indicates that it is currently on. It says low voltage. What do I have here? 24.9 volts on both batteries. Should be enough to start. If not, we'll have to use the GPU. Alright, make sure the propeller area is clear. Yes, it is. I don't see anybody out there. And starter switch, we're going to turn you on. So let me check mark that. Okay, before I start it, let me just explain a little bit about this throttle setup here. Now, it's in a lowercase h formation. Let me just put my head close to it and you'll see what I mean. The right-hand side is kind of like your prop pitch. As a matter of fact, if you have joystick buttons and so on bound to the prop pitch to pull the prop pitch up or down, I would highly recommend you use that for the startup procedure. So right now it's in cutoff, but then it'll go to low idle and high idle. Once you get up to high idle, you're going to want to raise your prop pitch to full, which will slide it over to the left side, which is the actual throttle. Once it reaches there into the taxi zone, then you can start using it as a throttle and your regular throttle will work. If you try to do that ahead of time before you've gotten it to the right position, your throttle will be completely unresponsive, so keep that in mind. Alright, let's go ahead and get this puppy started here. So our starter switch is right here. We just want to hold it up for 2 seconds. We'll let it go. And everything's coming up. Now, everything's going to happen quickly here, so I'm going to try and stay on top of it. First off, we want our NG to get up to 17. Once it gets there, we're going to slide our prop pitch up. Alright, so we're at 17, so we'll pull it up 1 notch to low idle. You see that starts the prop turning, and that will also start to increase our NG. Now, our next significant stop is going to be 52%. Once it gets to that position, we're going to put it into high idle. So again, we're watching the NG. Right now it's at 30. We're waiting for that to come up. And while I'm at it, let me just check off some things on the yield checklist here. Okay, throttle's up. Come on. Alright, so we're at 53, so we'll grab the right side of this and pull it up to high idle. Here we go. You can see everything's coming up. Our prop's still not at full flying speed just yet, but the engine itself is coming up, which is a good thing. We like that. Alright, make sure our engine parameters are looking good. They are, so once again we can hit the right side of this throttle and pull it up. You'll notice it slid over to the left. That'll get us ship shape. So you can see the prop is finally spooling up. Now, one thing that we neglected to do was to make sure that we've got brakes on. We should have had that in the checklist, but unfortunately it was not. But I did just hit our brakes here, and as a matter of fact, let me get our parking brakes on. Let me get rid of this yoke here. Here's our parking brake knob. You simply rotate it to the right, but there's a catch with that. You have to make sure that your toe brakes are pressed before you rotate this parking brake. The parking brake just kind of holds the toe brakes in place, so that's important to remember. All right, So now that we've got everything up, let me just go through our source. It's on battery, so we're gonna need to get our generator on. We're also gonna need to put that BP switch to auto. So what that'll do is whenever needed, the fuel pump will come on, but otherwise it'll stay off when not needed. And we will also need to change our fuel selector, so that way it will automatically go between the two tanks. You can see right now it's currently set to the left tank. It will automatically switch over to make sure that both left and right tanks have the same amount of gas in there. Alright, that's the bulk of the checklist. I'm going to stop using the checklist right now because I remember the rest of it by heart, but needless to say, if this is your first time using this aircraft, I would highly recommend you use this checklist. Just make sure, after you take those chocks off, that your parking brake is on. Okay, other things that we need to do really quick. We need to get our bleed air on, and we'll get our pressurization mode on. We'll also turn on our AC, so that's in the center position now. The fan is currently set to 1, so that's cool. I can't really feel the breeze inside of the cockpit, so it is what it is. We do have a few caution and warnings that are popping up. You can see we've got the parking brake on. Battery amp, a little bit low, but it's coming up to speed since we turned the generator on. Stall no heat and pitot heat, we'll get those up. So that's this switch here, this switch here. And there's another one that needs to be on. This is the inert separator, or inertial separator, I think it is. I don't remember if it's inert or inertial. But what it does in a nutshell is it prevents things from getting into the inner workings of the engine. So for example, if you get a bird strike, you probably want to keep that switch on if you're flying low altitudes where birds generally tend to be. And this being explained, we do have a nasty habit of having bird strikes every now and then. Thankfully, I don't see any, so we're good to go there. Okay, caution light, we'll turn you off. We'll wait for our amps to come up. Looks like the generator is doing generatory things. In the meantime, let's set up our flight plan. We'll click there. Alright, I think this is the correct one. EGTE, EGDC, EGD... No, this is not the correct one. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go over here. I've got several flight plans saved. EGHQ, EGTE, EGHH, all good waypoint, and EGHI. Alright, this is exactly what I want. So I'm gonna hit menu and activate leg. There we go. Okay, so that's where we're going. And let me see if it pops up on the left side now, and then we can go flying. No, it is not. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it because I know where we're going. So that will work for me. Alright, let's zoom out the map a little bit here. So this is actually where we should have taken off. However, me being, you know, who I am, I completely forgot and I started us out at the wrong airport. Not a problem though, because it'll track us directly to the correct airport and then we'll continue heading east towards Southampton. Alright, so yeah, that was fun. Alright, let's get this back on, and now would be a great time for a controls wipeout, so let's go aileron left, aileron right, elevator up, elevator down, up and down. Okay, looking good there. And rudder left, rudder right, left and right. Alright. Oh, you can see that the fuel tank has already switched over to the right tank. So once again, what it's doing is it's trying to balance the fuel in each wing. So it'll drop that down to 98, and once it reaches the same level as the left tank, it'll switch back over to the left tank. Looks like our battery amps are good. The only caution and warning indications that we have are the parking brake on and the inert sep on, so we're good to go there. I would say we're pretty much ready to fly. The only other thing I may want to do is put this on my head. So much quieter. Wow. Wow. Alright, let's get our taxi lights on while we're up here. Okay, there's not a whole heck of a lot of wind going on, so we're going to be taking off on runway 30, which is right over there. Convenient. And then we will head over to, I believe it's called Newquay or Newquay. I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. But yeah, that's where we should have started. So we're going to go to the outside view for a second here, and we are going to taxi into position and get out of here. And in case you haven't figured, this is going to be a little bit longer a video than usual. Okay, so that was a quick trip over to runway 30. And before we take off, let me just make sure that I've got everything else set up properly. I happen to know that my altimeter is wrong. Right now it's set to 29.902. It should be at 3000. So let's change that really quick. There we go. And we'll also change the one on the PFD. Alright, so that is set, 3,000 even. We are going to want to change our selected altitude for cruise. I'm thinking we're going to take it up to I need oxygen levels. So we're going to go up to about 15,000 feet. That's at 12. Oh, just went right past it, 15.7. Alright, we'll bring it back down. There we go, 15,000 feet. That should be fine. Okay, and I do believe everything else looks pretty good, so we'll get our landing lights on. Do one final check up the top, make sure all the switches are where they need to be. We're missing one. This is for the autopilot and yaw damper. Now, a word of note about this one, even though we're currently putting everything to the on position, that does not mean that the autopilot is automatically on. While you're on the ground, you need to have your yaw damper off in order for you to have nose wheel steering. This does not by default turn everything on, so it's important to note that. You actually do have controls to turn the autopilot on or off. That just activates the system there. Okay, so we should be fine. I am going to set flaps to takeoff trim. We'll make sure they're going down. They take a few seconds. Yep, I see the left side going down. I see the right side going down. Okay. I don't think we'll really need to use that little Nexrad that we've got in the radome, but it is kind of cool looking, so keep staring at it there. Alright, I'm going to hang up the Oculus Touch controller and we will take the active since there is currently no traffic in my X-plane. Okay, parking brake is off. Tow brakes will bring you up. Okay, there we go. Another interesting little quirk about this aircraft, even with the throttle completely in idle, it'll start taxiing, and more importantly, it'll start picking up speed. So you gotta be kind of liberal on the brakes, but just don't get too crazy with it. Otherwise, you will have the tendency of running out your brake pads, basically. That's not a pretty sight, let me just tell you. I think in the little maintenance thing, it costs like 300 bucks for brake pads for both of the main gear. Alright, but here we are, runway 30. Our rotate speed is going to be around 90 knots. So right here is good. And let's get the brakes on. Okay, don't ever turn while trying to put your brakes on. That's a bad idea. All right, let's check our trim. We need takeoff trim, rudder trim and aileron trim look good. But let's set our pitch trim to right about there. Okay, I think we are looking pretty dang good. Compass says we're in the right position. X-Plane says we are in the right position. Okay, Culdros, it's been real. We are off to Southampton. You know what it's time for, folks. Brakes down and throttles up. Okay, airspeed is alive. Try not to max out the throttle here. There we go. This is going to be our takeoff speed. So rotate. All right, looking good so far. Positive rate, gear up. And let's get our flaps up. And now we can start getting a good gander at Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain. So far, it's looking pretty cool. I love it. All right, but we're definitely going in the wrong direction, so we're going to need to loop around here. And look at that, the traffic is actually driving on the left as they would in England. It is a little bit breezy and a little bit turbulent right now, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm kind of swinging all over the place. But we're trying to see if we can get up past a lot of this chop, and of course past these clouds. So I'm going to swing out to the left a little bit here. Should probably trim us down while I'm at it, just a touch. Okay, there we go. Now, initial climb out in this aircraft is roughly around 124, but they actually recommend that you can go up to about 150 once you're established on your course and everything. And look at those forests. Holy crap. Yeah, see, this is what Orbx does well. Those forests, the placement of the custom autogen, the color-matched ortho textures, the rivers, everything. It all looks beautiful. All right, I don't want to bank too much harder than this here. This wind is blowing me all over the freaking place. Let's put a little bit of rudder in while we're at it. Okay, I think 2,000 feet per minute is fine, so let's activate our autopilot. And we'll put our nav hold on, so that'll keep swinging us around. What are we looking at for vertical speed? Roughly about 1550-ish. It's a little faster than normal. We are over 2,000 feet, so let me go ahead and turn off that Inert Sep. Now, it'll take a while to spool down, and there are a couple of important things that you need to know once it spools down. Your torque is going to go up. Your temperature, or ITT, is going to go down. So now that I've turned it off, I'm actually going to pull the throttle back a little bit in the expectation that the torque's going to go back up. And there's the airport that we just took off from. This is Culdros. Beautiful, beautiful. Matter of fact, let's go outside and check it out. Man, they are not kidding with this turbulence. Holy crap. Whew. Didn't know it could get so windy over the British countryside. That is awesome, though. Okay, so it looks like we are on course. We're heading to our first waypoint. We've got about 8 minutes to get there. Since this is going to be a kind of long flight, and since we took so much time on the ground to explain about this aircraft and so on, I'll of course be doing the magic of editing in order to push the flight forward, so that way you're not sitting here for like 2 hours thereabouts. Not that I think it'll take that long for us to get there, but I know that this video has already lasted a little bit longer than I intended, but there's just so much that I wanted to show you about this aircraft, and I've barely scratched the surface. I can honestly say right now, if I had to pick the best general aviation aircraft for X-Plane 11, hands down, this is it. As much as I love some of the other developers that, you know, make GA for X-Plane, there is just so much that they've packed into this thing that it's literally got the best value for the money. And it really doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot either. I mean, it is more pricey than some aircraft, but if you're like me and you're used to stuff like DCS World, where modules cost no less than like 70 bucks or 80 bucks, this is kind of cheap. This one is about 60 or 65 bucks, something like that. Consider everything that you get with this thing. Trust me, it's worth it. It is worth every single penny invested in it. If you want, and I really hate using this term, like I loathe using this term, but if you want something that's quote unquote study level as far as GA goes, this is the one to get. And yes, I absolutely loathe that term because too many people associate it with the likes of PMDG, who's only ever done one aircraft for X-Plane and nobody's seen or heard from them since. So yeah, that is not the be-all and end-all of flight simming. PMDG is not it. Okay, but everything's looking good so far. I'm thinking we should be at our cruise altitude by the time we get to Newquay. I'm just going to call it Newquay. It's probably Newquay or Newquay. Who knows? I'm sure somebody will be correcting me in the comments for the correct pronunciation of this airport. But that's okay. I'm just going to roll with it. Alright, we are at 7,000 right now. Once we get over 10,000, I will, of course, turn off our lights, our landing lights. But in the interim, how about we go back outside and take an extended look at the beautiful scenery that surrounds us. Okay, we are just over 10,000, so we'll go ahead and turn off our landing lights. And how far are we from our first waypoint? Less than 5 minutes, roughly about 12 miles. Okay. So that is pretty dang awesome. So yeah, what more can I really say about this aircraft? It is just phenomenal. I mean, I always have this nasty habit of falling in love with the various aircraft that I'm using, be they helicopters or fighters and so on and so forth, and especially GA. But there's just something about this one that just speaks volumes about the capabilities that developers have currently for X-Plane and what's going to be possible in the future. Like, you can't really see it right now, but you notice the black leading edge of the wingtips, or the wings there. Those are actual boots, like ice protection boots. They work. They absolutely work. As a matter of fact, if I could complain about one thing with this current iteration of this aircraft, it's the fact that the way that the icing is visually modeled does not currently sync up in VR with the airframe. That's unfortunate, but I'm pretty sure that's something that they will be able to fix. If I were on a monitor right now and going through icing conditions, you would actually see the ice building up on the leading edge of the wing, on the top of the wing, on the radome, on the airframe, all over. And whenever we activate the airframe de-ice and the prop de-ice and all of that, you can watch these boots inflate on the leading edge of the wing and basically break the ice off. It is so cool. Not too many developers have done that. I can only think of one other that's significant. That would be VSkyLabs with their DC-3. But I don't even know if the DC-3 has the ice protection boots like this thing has. It might not. I'm not too familiar with the DC-3. But suffice to say, being able to see these things inflate and see the ice actually reducing as a result of it is groundbreaking. I've never seen another aircraft in X-Plane do that. It's just incredible. Alright, I'm going to give us a little bit more throttle here, so that way we can get some more speed. We are almost up to 13,000, looks like. Let's check our oxygen. I should have done that before we took off. Alright, cabin pressure is 3,300 feet. Okay. It is possible to climb faster than your cabin pressure can pressurize, so be advised, that could be a potential problem. I think our angle is perfect. We've got it at about 1550 feet per minute, so we're fine there. And once we get past about 14,000 feet, which should be probably less than a minute, you'll start noticing that the oxygen will start going down because it'll actually activate it inside the cockpit. I haven't tested yet to see if this thing will do the same thing that Zebo does, where once you get over a certain altitude, if you don't have your packs on, basically you black out. I would hope that they've got that incorporated in this thing, but because I've been babying this for as long as I've had it, and bear in mind I've only had it for like a week now, I'm not about to test it right now. I want to do everything in this aircraft like I would in real life, with the possible exception of doing the full checklist, which I should have done. Alright, so we're about 1,000 feet away from cruise. Once we get to cruise, we're going to speed up significantly. So I'm going to pull our throttle up just a touch. Torque is at 85. That should be good. Once we level off, we'll get the remaining amount of torque that's left there. But I think 15,000 feet is an excellent altitude to be able to check out the English countryside. So since we're closing in on the airport, once we get within about 5 or 4 miles, or actually probably closer to 3 miles, we'll go back to the outside view, we'll check out the airport below us, and we'll watch as we make our turn to the next leg. Okay, so we've just passed our first waypoint, and the next waypoint that we are heading to is EGTE, which is Exeter. And I believe that is also a Royal Air Force base, or maybe it's a Royal Navy base, one of the two. But we're going to overfly that on our way east. So there we go. That's pretty cool. Now, you may have noticed outside that we've got what appears to be contrails. That, my friends, is X-Plane 11.30. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the long-anticipated update to 11.30 completely revamped the entire particle system in X-Plane. One of the things that they added, albeit a little bit liberally, is the ability to have contrails and wing vapor. So if the conditions are just right, and I have tested this with this aircraft, you can actually pull your angle of attack up high enough to create that wing over vapor that you often see in like fighter jets such as the Tomcat and the Hornet and so on. You can create that on the wings of this thing. There is a catch though. In this aircraft, and I haven't really tested it with many others, you cannot see those special effects from inside the aircraft. You can definitely see them outside, as you just saw with the outside view with the little contrails trailing off the back of my winglets there. But if I were to look this way, they're not there. You can't see them. I don't know if that's just a limitation of 11.30, because after all, beta is beta, nothing is perfect, and everything is subject to change, or if that's going to be a thing that we're going to need to rely on our folks at Hot Start to actually provide for us in a future update. Don't know yet. Could go either way, really. But suffice to say, it is a pretty nifty little feature, and I'm sure you've probably seen all around the internet, people are basically blowing up their engines and their aircraft and whatnot to show you the fire that is now possible in X-Plane 11. This is something that you've probably seen a lot of since June. When I was in Vegas, I did post a video of the actual laminar presentation where they first debuted the new particle system, and of course the one that got the biggest oohs and ahs were the flames and smoke coming out of the jet engine. You can do that. You can blow up your plane now. You can pretty much have all kinds of flames shooting out and so on and so forth. Not only that, but remember I've shown you before that you can do rudimentary combat in X-Plane. Even that has been affected. So whenever you launch a missile now, you can actually see the fiery trail of the missile as well as the smoke. The explosions look a little bit better as well. Bullets, you can see the tracers a heck of a lot better than in the other versions of X-Plane. It's almost closer to DCS as far as the visual effects that are now capable in 11.30. That was the major thing that we got with the 11.30 update. Remember, it is in beta. It may be in beta for a couple of weeks. It may be in beta for a couple of months. We really don't know what kind of bugs we're going to run into. So if you do decide that you want to try your hand with the X-Plane 11.30 beta, be sure to document any bugs that you find. There's going to be a link in the video description where you can go and report any bugs that you're finding in 11.30. This is critical. The more of you who actually report the bugs that you're finding, the quicker we can get fixes, and the quicker X-Plane 11.30 is going to become the official version of X-Plane. That's what the beta is for. It is not for a quote-unquote sneak preview so you can see what everything looks like. No, you are expected to actually help find the bugs that sneak through, because everybody's computer is different, so what works on my computer might not work the same on yours. If you find a bug, report it. Extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. Now, as far as performance, one thing I will say with 11.30, the performance in VR is pretty good. Now bear in mind, with this particular aircraft that I'm using, there have been a couple of updates recently that have massively improved FPS. Because I'm in VR, however, I am I guess you would say, a special case, because what you see as FPS on monitor, cut that into half, and that's pretty much what I'm seeing in FPS inside the VR headset. It doesn't mean that my headset is laggy, it doesn't mean that I'm getting judder or anything, it just means that there are two eyes to render. So I'll give you an example. If you're getting 90 frames per second on a monitor flying X-Plane 11, in VR you would be getting 45 frames per second per eye. And honestly, that's considered the ideal. This is not quite there just yet, and part of the major reason why that is the case, those clouds. Laminar Research still needs to do something about the clouds. If I had a totally clear sky, I'm pretty sure I could get my FPS up to 45 frames per second per eye. But because of these clouds, everything's dipping down a little bit. So if I had to guess, I'm probably about 30 frames per second. The lowest I will ever go is about 22.5. Any lower than that and your VR experience becomes horrid. But if you do the math, 22.5 times 2, 45 frames per second on a monitor. So still pretty good, still smooth enough for you to fly, but not ideal. Ideally you want to have 45 per eye. Can't do that with these X-Plane clouds. Now, I'm hoping that XEnviro will be our solution for that. When the XEnviro version 1.10 comes out, they're going to add volumetric clouds. And from the testing that I'm hearing is going on currently, it sounds like they have been able to improve the performance as well as the look of the clouds. I mean, volumetric clouds, that in and of itself, pardon the pun, speaks volumes. That's the kind of thing that we need in this flight sim, because these little 2D clouds that are just like generated one on top of the other, not quite convincing. But from what I'm seeing out of the XEnviro camp, it's looking good. Of course, like anything else that's being developed, they haven't given us a date as to when it's going to go live. We just have the expectation that it's coming, and of course all the lovely pictures on the XEnviro Facebook group, which I highly recommend if you are a follower of XEnviro. Go ahead and join that group, and that way you'll be kept abreast of all the upcoming changes that they have to a 1.10 version of XEnviro that's coming. Alright, but I need to give my mouth a little bit of a break, and there's still a whole hell of a lot of beautiful British countryside out there. So let's go back to the outside view, and we'll take another look outside, and when we come back in, I'm going to put myself in the back of the plane and show you that. Alright, be right back. One thing that I do notice, which is still something that Laminar Research needs to work on, probably related to those clouds that I mentioned in the last segment, you'll notice the cloud shadows are still shimmering. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. I've never been a huge fan of that, and it still kind of looks a little bad in 11.30. But here's hoping that XEnviro may be able to fix it, or maybe it's something that we'll need to wait for Laminar to actually finally address. But, as promised, here I am in the back of the aircraft. So look at this thing. That's where our luggage goes, back there. So that's where I've got my 60 pounds of luggage. We've got seats here. Can seat 4 people rather comfortably. And check this out. Look at that. Nice. The only thing that's missing here is a liquor cabinet. Although I'm sure I could probably stash a couple of bottles right in between the chairs there. Or maybe underneath there is our liquor cabinet. Hey, look at that. Yeah, you could definitely stuff some bottles in there, I would imagine. That's pretty cool. And there's one under here too. Oh man, you can hide all kinds of liquor up in here. This is amazing. I love this. I love this. Alright, so yeah, we've got our nifty little table here. You can see we've got our leather seats. They have gone totally overboard with the texturing of this thing. It's just absolutely incredible. I mean, look at that. Red stitching and everything. Now you know why this thing costs $4 million in real life. And, as if that were not enough, let's say the sun's in your eye. You can't deal with the sun anymore. Well, there you go. You pull your shades down. You don't have to worry about the sun being in your eyes. Is that not the coolest thing? I think we need a little reading light here. Oh, reading light is off. Okay. The reason why the lights are not coming on. In the cockpit, I needed to have turned on the cabin lights, and I think I can reach it from here. I don't know. Let's try it again. Hey, there we go. Now we've got a reading light. And look at that. It's actually shining onto the table. That's no kind of visual trickery, folks. That's actual lighting shining on the table. That's pretty cool. Let's turn it off and look again. Look at that. No more light. It's those little things, those little details that really make an aircraft stand out. And I'm hoping that by my showing you these, you're starting to see why I think this thing is worth every single penny that they're asking for it. And of course, I can't even tell you just how incredible it feels in virtual reality to actually sit here and feel like you are inside this aircraft, which is currently pilotless, I might add. So we're going to hasten back to the cockpit in a moment. Let me just open up our windows here. There's one. There's two. And there's three. Oh, look at that. We got some, what are those, Highlands over there? Not quite sure what that is. I'll be honest with you folks, this is my first time flying around England in the flight sim. I really don't know much about England. Even though I've got family there, I am woeful when it comes to being able to recognize any of these places. This is all virgin territory. Prior to this, I did not have any ortho photos or any add-ons whatsoever for the entire United Kingdom. Orbx is my first, and honestly, I think this is all I need. Now granted, the Southampton Airport that we're going to is an additional add-on. It is payware. It costs probably about the same amount as the whole Great Britain region, or southern Great Britain region. It's Orbx. It's how they make their money. It's their thing. I can't really hate on them for it, but I'm hoping that some of their future airports will come in at a lower price. That would be kind of cool to kind of plug them into the scenery. As it is right now, the way that Orbx has done it, this entire region, the TrueEarth Great Britain, they've gone as far as to put the orthos in there, as you can see. They've gone as far as to hand place all the forests, the roads, the waterways, everything, and of course the autogen, so all the specialized buildings that are typical of the British countryside and typical of British cities, they're all in there. What they did, which I think is a genius marketing strategy on behalf of Orbx, they left holes for all the airports in England. What does that mean? Well, this thing is going to sit roughly in the middle of your scenery packs file, and all your airports sit at the top. So those will all shine through in the holes, if you will, that Orbx has left in the scenery. So airports like Southampton, where we're going, they sit neatly on top and work seamlessly. The airport that we just left, Contrails, that is a default laminar research airport. And actually, I've noticed that a lot of the airports in England are laminar research airports, and they've, of course, have 3D modeling and so on and so forth. But again, they pop through the Orbx scenery and mesh seamlessly. If you have like Aerosoft airports or any other scenery maker, you can put those airports in its place, and it's just like plug and play. Imagine, if you will, a sheet of Swiss cheese, and all the holes in that Swiss cheese are where the airports sit. That's pretty much what this Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain is like. All you have to do is plug the holes with your airport of choice. Alright, but let's get back up to the front, so we'll close our little table here. We'll take another quick look outside, and when we come back, we will be in the cockpit and see how far along we got on our course. Okay, so let's see how far we've gotten in our travels here. We are less than 3 minutes away from Exeter, and then we are heading to EGHI. I'll be honest with you, I forget the name of the airport, but it'll probably be flashing on the screen right now. And of course, once I see this, when I actually review it before putting it up on YouTube, I'll go, oh, well, how could I forget that name? Alright, but as you can see by our flight plan, we don't have that far to go. We're almost about halfway done with our flight. So a couple of extra features that we've got here on this map. By default, we have TCAS, or traffic. So if I did have AI going, or if I were online like VATSIM or Pilot Edge or whatever, I would actually be able to see other folks' aircraft flying around the southern UK. The topographical map is what's on by default. That's what you're looking at. The varying shades of green determine your elevations. And as you can see, we just passed over some of the highest portions of southern England right now. The next highest portions are to the north of us, over by Wales. We'll check out Wales in a future video. But then we also have our terrain radar, which right now, since we're at about 15,000 feet, it's no factor. But if we were down to the deck, it functions like your regular old terrain radar, where it'll show you if you're about to smack into something. So very useful to have. We've got our airways. You can set this up multiple ways. You can set up the high airways, the low airways, or all the airways. Probably most useful for you commercial pilots, but if you're using this aircraft, for example, in like FS economy, which is a very popular thing for folks to do in X-Plane, you can actually plot your routes based on what shows up there. And of course, using things like SkyVector and some of the other things that are available for route planning, like SimBrief and whatnot. There is another little feature that they have with this thing, where there is an SD card that, as long as you've got an account with the particular website, and I forget the name of the website because it's not something that I expect I will ever use, but again, it'll be popping up down below. What it'll do is it will allow you to download all of the real-life routes and everything, and the charts in particular for all of the airports in Europe. I imagine it would come in pretty handy. Like I said, I don't think it's something that I would necessarily use, and I'm especially not paying a subscription for something like that. But the fact that that's an option in this aircraft is pretty cool. I do hear on good authority from the developers of this aircraft that they do also plan on incorporating Navigraph. So for those of you who actually have Navigraph accounts and so on, pretty soon you'll be able to import Navigraph into this thing. Right now it's currently using the same database as X-Plane 11. So all the information that we have here is based on what's currently been updated, the AIRAC cycle that's currently been updated for X-Plane 11.30. And then, of course, the last thing that we have here is the Nexrad, which, again, it's one of those things that right now it's pretty useless because, as you can see, we've got white fluffy clouds. We do not have any inclement weather. There's no supercells, there's no tornadoes, there's no hideous rainstorms or hurricanes, there's nothing. So the Nexrad really isn't going to do anything for us right now. But it's there if you decide to fly this thing in foul weather. So yeah, that's just kind of a sample of some of the things that you have at your disposal in this little MFD or multifunction display that we've got in the center here. Obviously, there's a lot more things that you can do, and I would highly recommend you, just like with anything else, read the manual that comes with the aircraft. There's just so much information that I'm barely scratching the surface on with this aircraft. It's definitely worth a read. Alright, we're about to overfly Exeter, so once again, we will go to the outside view. Okay, let's see where we are now. We are about less than 9 minutes away from EGHI, which thankfully have my cell phone. I was able to see it underneath the Oculus Rift, little nose indent there. That is Bournemouth. Of course, you will already know that because I will have already had the pop-up that would explain that. Okay, so we've got about 37 miles to go. I'm thinking once we hit about 30 miles from Bournemouth, we'll go ahead and begin our descent. In the meantime, let's check everything and make sure that we're still kosher. So fuel, left tank 80, right tank 79, so that's what, 159 gallons. That's about right. So yeah, we should be about 140 by the time we come down, or 145-ish. So I think my calculations were pretty good on the little payload screen that I showed you earlier. Still got some good cabin altitude going there, and oxygen is coming down nicely. So yeah, we are definitely sucking on some oxygen right now. Torque's looking good. RPM stable at 2,000. Everything's looking fine. It's all in the green, and the battery even came back up, so the generator is doing its thing. Very nice. Very nice. We're currently sucking from the right tank from the looks of it, so that is also pretty cool. And let me just check my switches again. Yep, everything is where it should be. We'll get our landing lights back on once we get down below 10,000 feet. Okay, I am thinking since 30 miles is going to come really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and set our altitude selector. And since I know that this airport is relatively close to sea level, I'm going to bring us down to an approach or a pattern altitude of about 2,000 feet. And we're going to come down gently so that way we're not, you know, going faster than our pressure can keep up with. Alright, so 3,000. Here we go. Up, 2,100. Alright, 2,000. Perfect. And look at that beautiful countryside. Man, I gotta say, Orbx has really knocked it out of the park. I know that when they had first mentioned that they were thinking of coming to X-Plane, they had a little bit of issues with Laminar. Honestly, I think the story behind that was probably just ego clashing, but don't quote me on that. Suffice to say, I'm glad that they were able to work something out and actually start bringing stuff to X-Plane. If this is an example of what Orbx brings to the table for X-Plane, this is going to be phenomenal. I thought I spent a lot of money in FSX over the years, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up buying every single thing that Orbx has for X-Plane if this is how I can expect things to look. That's just amazing, folks. And the thing of it is, of course, you could do this for free with Ortho for XP. You could make your own tiles for England, and a lot of people do that. But where Orbx has gone different, what they did was they made sure to color match each and every single one of the tiles that they were using for this scenery and the other two scenery packages that are going to be coming to finish out the entire UK. So what you're looking at here is just so perfectly blended that, especially in VR, it really does feel like I'm flying over England. And of course, as somebody who's never been to England, I really wouldn't know for sure. Hopefully in my life I'll be lucky enough to actually get to travel here. But I'm pretty sure that once I do get on that airplane, whenever it comes time to fulfill that portion of my bucket list, I'll probably have a lot of deja vu. This is some stellar work that Orbx has done, and I have to say, bravo. They did a great job on this. Alright, we are at 27 miles out from Bournemouth, so it is time to start coming down. And to do so, we are gonna hit the VS. And let's bring our nose down a bit. I'm thinking we'll start at about 1,000, or actually, you know what? Yeah, 1,000 should do it for now. I'm also going to bring the throttle down a little bit here. Let's see, so our torque was at 88. I'm going to bring it down to about the 50s. There we go, we're at 59 right now. We'll pull it back a little bit more. And the thing of it is, with this aircraft, it is so good at keeping speed that we probably really don't need to pull the throttle back all that much. But we are beginning our descent, and it'll be a few moments until we get there. If I had to guess, since it's about less than 6 minutes to Bournemouth, it'll probably take us another 6 or so minutes to get to our final turn to come in to runway 2, which I believe is the runway that I've selected for our landing. So we're gonna skirt just north of the Isle of Wight, I believe that is, and the only reason why I know that place is my grandmother used to live there at one point in time in her life. And then we'll hang that left and we'll come in. Alright, so this is gonna be the fun part, trying to land this thing. It's pretty good when it comes to landing, but there are, of course, like any other aircraft, things that you need to consider as you're coming down. And I'll explain a lot more of that once we get down a little bit further. But before I do anything else, let me increase our rate of descent. There we go. 1,300 feet. Alright, that should be fine. Okay, so once again, we're going to go back to the outside view, and we'll come back in a moment. Okay, we are just below 10,000 feet, so let's get our landing lights back on. There we go, landing lights are on. All the switches are still good. Looks like we're sucking from the left engine now, and we've got about 2.5 minutes till we get to Bournemouth. And then we'll hit a slight left to get to our last waypoint before we come down to land at Southampton. Okay, and right about now we're going to start hitting a little bit of that turbulence, so you're going to see the wings rocking back and forth. Just remember, we're in VR, and a lot of the normal tricks that are used to simulate turbulence in VR do not apply, because right now I'm sitting in my office chair. My office chair is not moving side to side, so I've got to physically do this in order to make it seem like we're going through turbulence. And believe me, I do not want to do that for like the next 5 minutes or so, just to give you the impression that we're flying through turbulence. Sorry, it's not going to happen. So we'll look at the wing, and you can see the shadow. The shadow, of course, will indicate that we are definitely going through a little bit of chop. It's not too bad, though. I think we can handle it. Alright, so once again, there's the southern coast of England. Oh, did I remember to put that table back? Yes, I did. Okay, good deal. Good deal. Incidentally, those are the oxygen masks up there. I have not tested that. I do not want to test that. But presumably, if we have a cabin depressurization situation, we'll need to use those puppies. Like I said earlier, I try to baby this aircraft. I really don't want anything to go wrong with it. And really, there's no consequence other than, you know, whatever fake money you're going to use to repair it. But it's the principle of the thing. The fact that I can actually track how much money, real-life equivalent, it would cost to keep this aircraft in ship shape means I'm going to be a little bit more cognizant of what I'm doing with it. So all those barrel rolls and nifty shenanigans that I'm known for doing in my videos, you won't be seeing any of those with this aircraft. Alright, let's see how we're coming down. Cabin altitude is at 1700. Okay, we're doing well. Everything else is still in the green. What's our numbers there? 78 and 75 on the tanks. And just about less than a minute. Well, 1 minute and 6 seconds to our next waypoint. We're just under 7,000 feet. Okay, so we're bringing her down to 2,000 as I stated. That'll be our pattern altitude. We should be fine with that. And when we reach the mouth of the river there, we'll go ahead and hang that left. Alright, so this should be pretty straightforward. Now, I've deliberately set the weather to manual. So right now, what you see is what you get. We don't have to worry about resetting our altimeter or anything. Everything's going to be exactly the same as when we took off. If you're using this with real-world weather, obviously, that's going to change. One thing I should bring up as far as X-Plane 11.30, they did make some minor improvements to the ATC. Most notably, what they did was they changed or added some of the voices to the ATC. But the functionality of it is still the same, which is to say, it still kind of sucks. So until Laminar actually addresses that and gives us an ATC system that's at least on par with what we're used to seeing in FSX and P3D, if not better, this is pretty much what we're stuck with. But it looks like we're about to overfly Bournemouth, so once again, we're going to go back to the outside for a little bit and we'll check that airport out. Okay, so we're safely past Bournemouth and we're into our final leg before we begin our approach. Off in the distance, you can see the Isle of Wight. Looking pretty cool. I'll have to take like the Eurofox or something and just go exploring that island because I kind of want to see some of the areas that my grandmother lived. She was originally from Scotland, if I'm not too mistaken. But yeah, from my understanding, she either vacationed there or she lived there for some period of time. I'm not 100% certain. I'll probably have to ask my dad. He'll be able to tell me better. Okay, but let me see how we're doing here. So about 4 minutes until we make our final turn, so we're definitely going to want to make sure we're at 2,000 and slowing down considerably. Right now our speed is at 219, so let me pull the throttle back some more. We really need to start slowing down here. And in this aircraft, you don't want to pull the throttle all the way back, otherwise it will give you the warning that the landing gear needs to be out. This is going to get really interesting considering the fact that we're still going through turbulence right now. And I don't remember just how far down this turbulence extends. So it could be a situation of our final approach. I may need to keep the autopilot on right down to the end of it there. I'm hoping that's not the case, but we're about to find out. Okay, other than that, everything is looking pretty good. Orbx is doing its Orbx-y goodness. And one thing that I do want to touch on really quickly, you may notice some slight variations in color on those trees down there. Orbx actually took the time to model different types of trees that exist in the southern portion of the UK. So instead of just having like one cookie cutter tree that X-Plane is prone to having, you're actually seeing all the different types of trees that exist down here. And of course, with the forests modeled the way that they are, it looks real. It looks absolutely real. Every now and then we might see a little British cop car go past, driving on the left. I don't see any in this area, so I can only imagine there's probably no bank heists or anything. Alright, but we are at 2,000 feet, so let me go ahead and pull us up just a touch. Okay, looking good. Now, I don't know if there is an ILS at this airport, but I'm going to probably try and see if I can bring her down manually, provided, of course, we don't get tossed all over the sky. One thing that I am going to do, however, which I'm going to need to adjust with the throttle, that Inert Sep that we had on before, we're going to turn that back on now, because right now we are in bird country, and I do not want a bird strike to cripple us. Although if they take out the prop, might not have much of a choice on that one. Okay, so it says about 3 minutes. I'm going to give us a little bit more throttle to compensate for the inertial separator coming on. Altimeter, as I mentioned, is still the same, 30.00. So we're good to go there. I'm actually going to turn off the cabin lights, even though I don't have any cabin lights on right now. I got to remember to do that as part of my shutdown procedures with this thing. And that's an important takeaway with this aircraft as well. Whatever state you leave this thing in, when you shut it down, it will remember that. The next time you pull up this aircraft, in particular, if you are just picking up where you left off, it will remember how you have everything set, and it will also remember where you parked your aircraft. Obviously, if you want to start at a different airport, you can do that just through the regular X-Plane interface, and it will allow for that. But if you're just planning on doing like a cross-country tour where each leg you pick up where you left off, it will remember where you left your plane, and it will remember exactly the condition that you left it in. Keep that in mind when you're flying this thing. Okay, 2 minutes, 57 seconds till our turn. It's about 8 miles out. Okay, so there's the mouth of the river. I can't really see Southampton from here. Let's try the magic binoculars and see if that works. I know it's over there somewhere. I want to say it's off in that direction, but with this turbulence, it's kind of making my head shake a little bit more. I think that's it, actually. Yeah, that could be it. Alright, well, we're going to find out in a moment here anyway. But let's go back outside one more time before we make this turn a final. And then we'll bring her home and finally call this extra long video done. Okay, I'm going to slow us down considerably here because we are going to be getting ready to land in a moment. And I want to say our airport is right over there, but what I will do is I will let our navigation hold get us on course, and then we'll take off the autopilot and see if we can bring this sucker in. I don't know if you've noticed, whenever we do those outside shots behind the aircraft, there's actually heat shimmer now. Every aircraft has had improved heat shimmer added to their engines, at least the ones that apply. And since this is, of course, a turboprop, it does have those big, huge exhaust pipes coming out the side, so you can see the heat shimmer there. Okay, let's get our gear down. Might as well get into a dirty configuration before we land. And we'll drop our flaps to full. I'm going to turn off our pitch hold. Okay, flaps should be down full in a second. Gear is 3 down and locked. Alright, so we're good to go there. We're ballooning up because of the flaps, but that'll come down momentarily. Autopilot still wants to keep us at about 2,000 feet, so we'll wait for that to come back down. Our approach speed, we'll try to keep that around 100-ish. Just waiting for this thing to make its turn, and then we'll begin our final approach. I'm starting to regret putting this turbulence in there. That's going to make for an interesting landing. Alright, but there's the Isle of Wight again, so we'll take a quick look at that. Looking very pretty. And this thing's starting to get me a little paranoid here. With all this turbulence, I keep thinking that it's turning us to final, and it's really not. Okay, so we're going to stay at 2,000 here until we have confirmed visual of the airport. I believe that's it, so we use the magic binoculars. I thought that was it. Maybe that's not it. I really can't see the airport from here. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to worry about it just yet, folks. We still have a little ways to go until we get to our turnoff. Now, another interesting little thing that I am using is, I forget the name of it. I think it's VM Twick or VMI Twick. Of course, it's going to pop up below right now. But basically what that does, if you're familiar with 3J FPS, it's a similar thing to 3J FPS, except it actually works inside of VR. Like, I can pull up the interface and monitor my FPS and make whatever settings changes I need to make while inside VR. And of course, it works automatically in the background, keeps your FPS manageable. I'm not going to show it off right now because obviously we're getting ready to land here. But I will link it below, so feel free to click on the link, and that way you can check it out yourself and see if that is something you need if you use VR. Alright. Our turn should be coming up any second now. 2 seconds. Now. There we go. What do we have down there? What is that? A smokestack? Certainly doesn't look like a lighthouse. I think that's a smokestack. Okay, but we are beginning our turn to final. So far, everything's looking good. We're just waiting for the magenta line to line up. As soon as that's been accomplished, I will turn off the autopilot and bring us into Southampton. And I am actually getting a little bit of stutters here, to be expected. Beta is beta, so not everything is optimized. That's not me taking pictures. Normally, whenever you see it stutter like that, that's me taking a screenshot, but not this time. Alright, so, presumably, we've got an airport directly ahead of us. Let's see if we can see it now. I'm not seeing this airport. Where is it? It's gotta be up there, folks. I know it's there. Or maybe it's a little bit off to the left. Okay. Well, there we have what looks like an oil refinery, or perhaps a petroleum facility or something. Probably pretty much the same thing. There's a little neighborhood there. Very nice. Very nice. Alright, really gotta watch our airspeed here while we're at it. Says we're about 5 minutes out and 7 miles out. So it should definitely be in visual range, but it's a little bit inland past the river. Okay. Kind of gives me an idea. Is that it? Holy crap, that's it. And from the looks of it, it looks like we're way off course. Yeah, because there's the runway there. We are coming in at the wrong angle. Holy crap. Okay. Not to worry, folks. Here's how we fix that. Nav hold, off. Autopilot, off. And we'll veer off to the left. I'm also going to trim us down a touch here. Okay, this is my plane. Alright, let's trim for speed here. We'll try to keep it around 95-ish. Of course, I'm also having to wrestle with this turbulence. That is not pretty, let me just tell you that. Of course, the other problem is I've now run out of hands, because I'm completely hands-on here. I really wanted to zoom in that MFD. So if I can keep the throttle steady, I can probably grab the Oculus Touch controller with this hand and zoom it in. Oh, come on, baby, work with me. Wrong way. Alright, there we go. Okay, now, where is this airport again? That be it. Right there. Okay, so we're gonna need to follow this river in. It looks like there's a bit of choppiness on that river as well, so yeah, this wind is really kicking up. We're gonna want to bring it down somewhat. Alright, let me just confirm everything's good. Gear 3 down and locked, flaps full. Trimmed for speed, coming down at approximately 99 knots. And actually, I might want to pull a little bit of throttle out. We'll come down at about 95 knots. Okay, that's our little warning that indicates we're coming down. Sheesh, this thing wants to fly all night. So once again, we are playing the trim tango here. Alright, but that I believe is our runway, so literally we follow this river up. You'll see it on the map there. And hopefully I'll be on glide slope. I'm going to start our turn here. Okay, we're still at about 100 knots, even though I pulled the throttle back a bit. It's the joys of having a turboprop, folks. Alright, we're at 1500 right now. Just gonna have a nice, gentle turn here. I think I see my point of reference just past that bridge. There's that little peninsula there. That's where we're gonna aim for. And that'll bring us in. First, let's do a quick outside view and make sure that we're at least looking good. Holy crap, it's a good thing that I don't get motion sickness, because right now, folks, this is pretty rough. X-Plane is doing its thing, and oh my god, am I being thrown around the sky here. Alright, but we do have a bit of a headwind going here, so this is where we need to be. And from the looks of it, it looks like we are currently on glide slope, so this is great. Keeping this thing steady enough to land, however, that's going to be the real trick. And as I mentioned before, brake pads are 300 bucks a pop. So, yeah. Luckily, this thing does come equipped with thrust reversers, so that may come in handy. If you're hearing any extraneous noise, it's the sound of my very old Cytec X52 squeaking as I turn the controls. This is crazy. Alright, baby. Keep steady for me. Keep steady. Okay. I gotta say, this is pretty adventurous of me. I've not actually tried landing this thing in turbulence, so yeah, this is a workout. This is a bit of a workout. I'm just glad that the Cytec X52 doesn't have force feedback, otherwise I'd probably be literally fighting my controls trying to bring this thing in. But let's take a quick look. There you can see more Orbx-y goodness. Did a phenomenal job. Thank you, Orbx. Best money I've ever spent on X-Plane between that and this aircraft. Alright, but now it looks like we're going to need to crab in just a bit. Alright, we're just under 1,000 feet. We're still on glide slope, though, but holding her steady. Oh my god, that's the interesting part. Wow. Okay. Now, once we actually land, what I'll be doing is putting the throttle to full idle, and I have a button set for thrust reverse, or prop reverse in this case. That's one of the things that they recommend in the manual. Make sure that you have a button on your joystick, or maybe a switch on your joystick set for prop reverse. It comes in handy. Comes in very handy. I have no idea how long this runway is. It looks like it's a fair length, but I don't want to take any chances, so as soon as I've confirmed that the gear's down, I will be hitting the thrust reverse, or the prop reverse. I'm still trying to crab us in first, though. Man, look at those houses. And incidentally, these houses that you're seeing, these are not default X-Plane houses. These are custom-made houses by Orbx to replicate what exists in real life in the southern portion of England.
500.
All right, thank you, Betty. Okay, you may have noticed the stutter there. That was actually me taking a screenshot this time. Doesn't get to look much better an approach than this. Although I'm still wobbling all over the place. Sheesh. All right, baby. Keep your nose up. Keep your nose up, please. Okay. I don't want to jinx myself. I'm thinking we've got this, but I'm just going to add just a touch more power just to make sure that we remain on glide slope. And I need to swing us a little to the right here. Let's get some rudder. Okay, there we go. Now we're looking good. Let's take another picture. That's a Kodak moment. And look at that, we've got a highway there. With all those vehicles driving on the wrong side of the road. At least if you're American. Okay, we're a little low on glide slope, but I think we got this. I think we got this. So, alright folks, welcome to Southampton, England. Let's bring her down on runway 2. And we should be good to go. Alright, rudder is centered, so hopefully we won't track all over the place. We're going to try and see if we can bring them down right at the touchdown mark. Let's drop that throttle. Okay, right here should be good. Throttle all the way down. We'll flare a little bit. Yes, I'm aware, Betty. Look at that. Perfect, smooth landing. All right, let's get some thrust reverse going. Very nice. Very, very nice. And while we're at it, we'll hit the brakes. Okay, let's get it out of prop reverse. All right. So there we go. We are down, folks. And like I said, welcome to Southampton. What an incredible flight. That was awesome. Okay. Let's get our flaps up. And we'll push forward. We'll get off the runway here. Flaps take forever to come up, by the way, just in case you were curious. So we're going to hold short right off to the side of the runway as we figure out where exactly we're going to park this thing. I think right here should be good. All right, let's hit the brakes. Brakes on. Okay, good deal. Alright, so we'll clean up the plane a little bit. Flaps are up full. Let's get our taxi lights on. We'll leave the strobe on because there's no separated strobe or beacon with this aircraft, so we always keep the strobes on until we turn off the engine. Everything else is looking pretty good. We can turn off our autopilot, so that'll be fine there. Let me see how we're doing on fuel. We're currently sucking from the left tank, and it'll balance itself out in a moment, so we'll leave that as is. Inert Sep will keep you on, just in case we have any FOD or foreign object debris. And let me see, where do I want to park? I want to say the GA should be over there somewhere. Yeah, there's a Learjet, or what is that, a Gulfstream? I see a few Cessnas over there as well, so I think that's where we're going to park. We just don't want to be in the way of this commercial traffic. So, brakes off. And let's give it some throttle. So yeah, not a bad combination. Got Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain, and we've got Orbx Southampton, which just released the weekend that I am recording this video. I would say that's a pretty good combination. If there is only one downside, I will notice that we have lost some FPS, but then that is to be expected considering the fact that I'm in 11.30 beta, and I am also running Orbx, which does tend to be a little bit of an FPS hog, at least traditionally. But with that having been said, as long as you can live with some of the loss of FPS, then I can too. And we're going to go ahead and taxi down to a place where we can park this bird for the night, and we can call this done. There's a Flyby over there. It's pretty cool. It's very cool. So I can only imagine what's coming next from Orbx. They're really going to have to work hard to top this one. Honestly, I can't wait to see what the Scottish portion of this scenery package is going to be like. And I know that a lot of you probably want to see like London and areas like that. I'll be showing that off in the future. I'm thinking for our next run we'll probably go to Wales, and I will pull out one of my fighter jets and see if we can do the ever famous Mach loop. But for right now, I think this will be excellent as far as a good introduction to Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain. And of course, showcase wouldn't be complete without our chariot for this evening, this phenomenal Hot Start TBM 900. Alright, but I need a parking spot. I am thinking we're gonna go this way here, to the right. Alright, so we'll turn here. Hope I'm not gonna hit that Cessna. Alright, right there should be good. Brakes on. Okay, good deal. We'll get our parking brakes on. And that sound indicates our parking brakes are on. Alrighty, folks. Well, I don't know about you, but I know this video was a little bit longer, but I think it was definitely well worth it to show off some of the amazing things that we've got currently available to us here in X-Plane 11. I will remind you, this is X-Plane 11.30, which is currently in beta, so if you are not the kind of person who likes to report bugs and so on and so forth, I would recommend you do not get this. Wait however many weeks or months that it's going to take for this to become the official version of X-Plane, and I promise you by that time we will have taken all the bugs out for you. We'll do the work for you. Alright, so just to remind you, what we've been flying here is the Hot Start SOCATA TBM 900. And Betty's going to be making a lot of noise here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn everything off really quick. Alright, there we go. AC is off. And I guess I can turn our fuel selection off. We got our engine off. There we go. Everything should be spooling down right now. Get our fuel pump off. Turn our generator off. Turn our strobe off, as well as our taxi lights. Alright. So that is it, folks. That is it. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this very long journey. And as always, this has been BelGeode. I've been flying around in X-Plane 11, and this thing is not going to stop beeping, I swear. Holy crap. So just to remind you, this is the Orbx TrueEarth Great Britain South. And this particular airport that we're at right now is Orbx Southampton, which is also now available and sits perfectly on top of the TrueEarth Great Britain. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And when next we return, like I said, we're going to head to Wales to check out the Mach Loop. Alrighty folks, that will do it for me, so thank you as always for watching. This is BelGeode signing out, and I will catch you on the next one. Alrighty folks, ciao!